So I started studying regularly. I started spending more time in mathematics because mathematics was a difficult course for me. I did not join any tuition. I studied on my own, and I used to attend all classes regularly. In 11th standard, my score was 68%, but the improvement was I could score good marks in mathematics. Similarly, I completed 12th standard, and my PCM score was around 78%, and overall percentage in 12th standard was also 68. Right from childhood, I had strong liking towards electronic gadgets. So after 12th standard, I requested my father to join the diploma program. I could get admission in degree, but I preferred to take admission for diploma because of lack of confidence. So after taking admission in diploma, there also I started studying regularly, and as I had good liking towards electronics, I stood first in the class, and that boosted confidence in me. So there afterwards, uh, I used to stood first in the class, second year diploma, third year diploma. And after completion of diploma, my father insisted me to go for degree. So I took admission in KBB College of Engineering, Satara district. So there also I stood first in the second year, third year, and final year, and I was one of the university ranker. There afterwards, I did job in one of the private company located in Bombay, and after 6 months, I left that job and I rigorously prepared for GATE examination. In GATE 2003, my score was 99.59 percentile with All India rank of 129. Besides having good score, I could not get admission at IIT Bombay because in those days there were limited number of IITs and limited number of seats. So I could get admission at IIT Kharagpur. My specialization RF and microengineering. So after completion of MTech, I did 1 year job in Rajaram Bapu Institute of Technology, and again I went for PhD. I completed my PhD in 2010 from IIT Kharagpur, and once again I joined Rajaram Bapu Institute of Technology. So after carrying out research, academic research up to 2012, in 2013, I started developing electronic products. So my journey of electronic product development began in 2013, and my first product was water level controller. Let me tell you, the first product which I developed when I installed at one location in our campus, this water level controller worked reliably only for few days. After 5 to 6 days, this product started malfunctioning. So I brought that product back to laboratory. I did analysis. I improved it. Once again, I deployed it. But again, after 2 to 3 weeks, this product started malfunctioning. So again, I brought it back to the lab and I did corrections. And after third iteration, that product became extremely reliable. And I'm happy to tell you that some of the water level controllers which I installed way back in 2013, still they are in operation. So this is how my journey began. The point which I want to emphasize here is, as I was failed in 11th standard, I took that failure seriously and positively. And one change I brought in me, and that change was regularity. So if you also can do things regularly, you can also achieve good success. So I urge each participant that you attend all sessions regularly. And because of some reason, if you are not able to attend few sessions, you at least watch recorded sessions and have continuity. There is continuity from one session, link from one session to another session. Uh, if you could not attend few sessions, then later on you cannot understand what is going on in this internship program. So each and every session is important because there is connection from one session to another session. So this is all about my academics. Just one more point I would like to mention here is, almost in all technical colleges, there are different departments like electrical, mechanical, computer, civil, and so on. So faculties in different departments, they work in silos. They do not take up the projects in collaboration. And this is the reason why good projects are not developed in colleges. So in this internship program, there are students from different departments of same colleges. So if the students, if they come together, they can definitely they can develop reliable IoT based product which they can deploy practically. Now in this internship program, we are going to deliver sessions on sensor design, sensor interfacing, microcontroller programming, then Android app development. So some topics will be difficult for 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 example, sensor design part, sensor interfacing part. This part may be difficult for computer engineering students, computer engineering faculties. Similarly, cloud side programming or Android app development, this may be difficult for electrical engineering student or electronic student. However, if you attend all the sessions regularly, electrical student can develop Android app. Electrical student can do some cloud programming. Similarly, if participants from computer domain, if they attend these sessions regularly, they can understand sensor design, they can understand sensor interfacing. The point, once again, I want to make is there must be regularity. Unless and until you do not attend these sessions regularly, you cannot build reliable IoT based product. My intention here is after completion of this program, each and every participant should be able to develop IoT based product which can be deployed practically. So that is the intention. So I myself has developed 3 IoT based products in collaboration with uh, expert in cloud computing domain, and most of the products are practically deployed, and I'm selling more than 10 different products in market. So let's begin with actual session. First of all, requirements for better learning and hands-on experience. So I divide this into 2 types: software hands-on experience and hardware hands-on experience. So those who are having laptops and computers, at least they can experience software hands-on. And for software hands-on, we require different softwares. Most of the softwares are freely available. This MPLAB XID software, it is freely available software. It is used for uh, microcontroller programming. So microcontroller program is developed with MPLAB XID software and X8 compiler. So these 2 softwares are required together. These 2 softwares are freely available. Especially MPLAB XID software is available free of cost. This X8 compiler is available in license version as well as free version. In free version, there are few limitations. Likewise, for Android app development, we require Android Studio. It is freely available. MIT App Inventor, it is freely available. Arduino IDE software. This Arduino IDE software is not, we are not going to use for Arduino board programming. It will be used for ESP8266 programming, and simple code will be written in ESP8266 so that data from PIC microcontroller can be transferred to cloud. This Proteus simulation software is license version. Its free version is not available. So those who want to do some practice using Proteus simulator, they should manage to get this software from internet. We cannot provide it. Except Proteus simulation software, we can provide all the softwares, and you can also get it on your own. We have already shared link from our side to download the softwares. During first week, we require only MPLAB XID software, X8 compiler, and Proteus simulator. Next week, we also require deep test software. So in second week, we'll have couple of sessions on PCB design. So this PCB design part may be difficult for computer engineering students. But as I already mentioned, if computer engineering student, if they acquire some knowledge in PCB design, maybe in sensor interfacing, sensor design, they can do wonderful projects, IoT based projects. This PIC-Kit or PIC-Kit 3 programmer, these softwares are also freely available. These softwares are used for programming the PIC microcontroller, which we are going to use in our program. Those who want to do hands-on on hardware, then we recommend them to use IoT development board, and few participants have already purchased IoT development board from us. And it is not compulsory to buy IoT development board from us. You can also explore other sources. So if you have IoT development board with you, then you can do hands-on with hardware. What you can do is you can interface some kind of sensor to this development board. Then from this development board, you can transfer data to cloud using ESP8266 module. Then from cloud, you can get this data in your Android app. And again, you can do reverse data transfer from Android app to cloud and cloud to again microcontroller. And this complete cycle we are going to cover in our program. So along with IoT development board, we are not providing 12-volt adapter and programmer. This Termite software and USB to TTL converter, these last two tools you may use on your side. And during internship program, we are not going to use these last two tools. Last two tools are used for hyperterminal. This Termite software is a kind of hyperterminal where you can transmit data from your computer to your ESP8266 module or GSM module. Then book for learning PIC microcontroller. Some of the participants may be familiar with PIC microcontroller, and some of the participants may be going to study PIC microcontroller first time. So what is the good book to study PIC microcontroller? Title of this book is PIC microcontroller and embedded systems using assembly and C for PIC18. Author of this book is Mohammad Ali Mazidi. A publisher is Pearson International Edition. Along with this book, I also recommend all of you to make use of application note for PIC devices. This application note, after this session, I will share you on all WhatsApp groups. This application note is for PIC 18F4.20. Microchip is leading manufacturer of different types of microcontrollers, 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit. They also manufacture digital signal processors. And for each PIC device, they have published application notes. In this application note, detailed information and architecture of all PIC devices is mentioned. So for each PIC device, there is separate application note. This application note you can download from the internet as well. So if you use application note of PIC 18F4.20 and this book, then you can very easily learn PIC microcontroller. Let me tell you, in 2000, I started studying PIC microcontroller in 2012, and within 3 weeks, I studied PIC microcontroller on my own. So learning of PIC microcontroller is very easy. It is not difficult. Some instructions are already given by Professor Randir. He is one of the coordinator of this program. So this third instruction is read document related to PIC microcontroller. So we'll share documents related to PIC microcontroller. PIC microcontroller is, let me tell you, one of the industry grade microcontroller. I'm going to talk about problems of Arduino board later. So PIC microcontroller is one of the industry grade microcontroller, and it is used in many industries. And it is also used in many different types of products. So you also simulate some of the programs on your own. So we'll share program files to you also after delivering sessions on program writing. We'll also conduct quizzes at the end of each week. And what we'll do is, we'll do averaging of all 4 quizzes for all participants, and we'll identify top 3 winners, and we'll provide them cash prizes and certificates in hard copies. During this internship program, we are going to discuss three different projects. which are IoT based. This first project is IoT based non-conductive liquid measurement. So in this project, we'll discuss how to design sensor, then how to convert data of the sensor into digital value using I2C protocol, and how to transmit that data to the cloud and from cloud to Android app. So this project will be in detail discussed. Then second project is IoT based demand charge control system. So this project you can practically implement with our guidelines, and with this project you can save in electricity charges of your institute. Third project is IoT plus classroom electricity control system. So architecture of all these three projects we'll discuss in detail. Internship content. Most of you already know what is the content of internship program, but let me once again revise you. We'll discuss about PIC microcontroller programming using MPLAB XID software. Then in the case study, we'll cover I2C protocol. So sensor interfacing using I2C protocol. I2C protocol is most widely used in industries. Then these case studies will be on non-conductive liquid measurement, power measurement for design of demand charge control system to save the electricity charges. Then we'll also cover interfacing of PIC microcontroller with ESP8266 using EART protocol. Then during last 2 weeks, we'll deliver sessions on integration of hardware and cloud. So we'll cover both clouds, AWS IoT and Firebase. For AWS IoT, to create account, you need credit card. So if you have credit card, you can open free account. There is limit for data. If that limit is exceeded, then and then only you need to pay charges. Then we'll also discuss integration of cloud, that is AWS IoT cloud and Firebase cloud with Android app. So we'll have some sessions on designing the Android app, and through this app you will understand how to transmit the data from Android app to microcontroller, and also how to receive data from data received from sensor through microcontroller back to the Android app. So complete IoT framework we'll discuss, and same IoT framework you can use for different types of projects. The only changes will be in the sensor and output data. So this IoT framework that we'll discuss during our program, it will remain same for different types of projects. Only sensors and output data will change. We'll have 1 or 2 sessions on PCB design, and there we'll cover design of this IoT development board. So after attending session on PCB design, you can design IoT development board in your department if you have PCB design lab. And one session will be on IPR and patents. What we believe that most of you will work in industry, and there you may invent something new. So you must know what type of material is suitable for filing the patents. So through this session, you will understand what kind of stuff is required for filing the patents. Those who have purchased IoT development board, they must buy either PicKit 2 or PicKit 3. This PicKit 2 and PicKit 3 are programmers. These programmers are used to download hex file into PIC microcontroller. So unless and until you do not have this PicKit 2 or PicKit 3 programmer, you cannot download hex file into microcontroller. So what is hex file, how to write code, we'll discuss in detail during our upcoming sessions. This is the IoT development board developed by us. Here ESP8266 module is separate. So as we have already mentioned, buying of IoT development board from us is not compulsory. And around 35 participants have purchased IoT development board from us. So we'll guide you how to make use of this IoT development board. Just one important thing I would like to highlight here is this microcontroller IC has notch. Look at here, this cursor. Pin number 1 is near this notch. If you do not match pin number 1 with the zip socket here, pin number 1 of JIP socket. Pin number 1 of JIP socket is near this handle of the JIP socket. Then this IC may get damaged. So you must properly put this IC into the JIP socket with correct pin number matching. So in this development board, you can directly plug and pay LCD display. There is port for connecting LCD display. So you need not require 12 jumper wires for connection of LCD display. And we have also given here port for interfacing ESP8266 module. In this development board, there is also motor driver IC here. We have given one analog port. So during our internship program, we'll cover one simple program first. That is, output of this analog port will be digitized. That digitized value will be displayed on LCD display, and same value will be transferred to cloud, and we'll see this value in Android app. We have also given one switch here. You can also interface external keypad. So there is provision here. I will talk about this board later. Just few things I would like to highlight here is we have given here pull-up register. There are 4 pull-up registers in one register. This is called register network. This register network internally has 4 registers, and these 4 registers work as pull-up register for port B of the microcontroller. So microcontroller in detail will have sessions. Yes, I am giving small information about use of this board. We have here this switch. You will see there is one switch. Output of this switch is available on this 2-pin connector. These 2 pins are shorted with each other. So in order to use this switch, what you need to do is just connect jumper wire in between our switch connector to any one microcontroller port pin. So this switch will get connected to that port pin. We have here connector for LCD display. So LCD display, you can very easily connect onto this board. We have here separate pins for serial communication. Like you will see here, RX, TX. We also have here pins for I2C protocol. I'm not going to discuss product developed by me in detail. Just I would like to show you photographs. Some of the products developed by me, and I am also selling these products in market. Dual channel smart DC regulated power supply. Interesting feature of this power supply is this power supply differentiate different conditions like constant voltage, constant current, and short circuit. This power supply is capable of detecting short circuit across the voltage terminals. So whenever there is accidental or intentional short circuit, this power supply detects it and it switches the output voltage to 0. Output voltage and current is switched to 0 under short circuit condition, thereby protecting the internal MOSFETs. Whenever short circuit is detected, it also produces beep and it also flashes message of short circuit. Another interesting feature is all the parameters of power supply like load voltage, load current, and current limit. It is simultaneously indicated on the display. This is automatic curd maker, domestic model, and commercial model. I have filed 3 patents on this automatic curd maker. 2 patents are already granted, and 1 patent is under examination. Then other products developed are automatic water level controller. I have developed around 4 different types of automatic water level controllers suitable for submersible, non-submersible pumps, 3-phase pump. So different types of water level controllers are developed. Only 2 types of photographs of only 2 types of water level controllers are shown here. One is using LCD display and one is using LED indication. We have also developed IoT-based automatic water level controller around 1.5 years back. We have deployed it in our institute. Around 24 units are installed at different locations. Initially, there were problems at the beginning. So within 3 to 4 weeks, we corrected all the problems. And we have tested this system for last 1.5 years. And the system is working very nicely and reliably. And we use industry grade components in the installation. Like solenoidal valve used here is industry grade. The components used for development are also investigated. We have not used Arduino, we have not used Raspberry Pi boards. So we have used industry grade PIC microcontroller for development of this system. Then other products developed are wireless security system, long range occupancy detection system. The range of this occupancy detection system developed by me is 90 feet. You can Google it on the internet. You will find hardly any supplier which provides occupancy detection system with range up to 90 feet. So this 90 feet range is achieved in winter season. That is when temperature is 27 degrees Celsius. This detection range is around 90 feet. However, in summer season, when ambient temperature is high, this detection range comes down to around 40 feet. Then another products are programmable ringing bell, automatic hand sanitizer dispenser. Last year, during a period of around 2 to 3 months, we could sell around 1100 units of automatic hand sanitizer dispenser across different parts of Maharashtra. This is IoT-based product, IoT-based saline monitoring and control system. I have filed 2 patents on it. This is really interesting product. It is useful for healthcare sector, especially for hospitals. You will see there are different parts in this system. On the stand, top side, you will see control system, IoT-based saline monitoring and control system. This saline bottle is attached on the lower side of this control system. And on the stand, you will see here red part. It is called pinching mechanism. The major problem faced in hospitals is there is limited supervising staff and they cannot look after more number of patients in the hospital. And as such, many times what happens is that once this saline bottle gets emptied, there is issue of reverse blood flow into this IV pipe. This saline bottle is also called IV bottle, intravenous fluid. This is the major issue faced by the hospitals. So innovative component of this system is pinching mechanism. This system is able to sense small quantity of saline left in the bottle, about 4 to 5 ml. And just before emptying the saline bottle, this control system activates the pinching mechanism and it pinches the IV pipe, so that small quantity of saline fluid, IV fluid, is retained in this bottle and reverse blood flow is prevented. In this system, we have developed touch panel. So this entire system is controlled using 4 touch buttons, and we have used graphical LCD display. We have not used character LCD display. We use graphical LCD display. So in this system, there is also mechanism to measure the flow rate using contactless sensing method. System is able to measure flow rate in ml per minute as well as number of drops per minute. So I don't want to spend more time here. I have done notable consultancy work for Kirloskar Oil Engine Limited, Kolhapur. 3 years back, their system is still in operation and they are saving around 6 to 7 lakh rupees per year on their electricity bill. And they have also given me appreciation letter for the work carried out for them. Now, let us start with actual session on IoT project development. First of all, I would like to discuss product design guidelines. The first requirement of any commercial product is reliability, and then comes cost. See, if you develop any kind of product using unreliable components, then problem is when you deploy product into the real practice, or if you start selling into the market, and if it starts malfunctioning, then nobody will buy it. So first and foremost attribute of any commercial product is reliability. So your product must be reliable and it must work in different harsh conditions. Second comes cost. So once you design reliable product, then you start working on cost reduction without compromising the reliability. So you should not compromise reliability. Cost parameter comes next. Some product requires aesthetics, especially household and domestic products must be good looking. So you must also pay attention to the aesthetics of the product. For making the product reliable and for minimizing the cost, you must carefully select the components. For example, In automatic hand sanitizer dispenser, which I developed first version, my circuit was big. Later on, I made iterations. And what I did was, I removed some components in hardware and I performed their operation in software. So you can remove some components in your system and you can perform their operation in software, if possible. Then you also consider worst case operating conditions. While designing your product, you must take into account operating voltage range. In India, all of you know that standard operating voltage is 220 volt AC, 50 Hertz. But many times, this voltage is below 220 or above 220 volt. This voltage may fall down to 160, 150 volt, something like this. Sometimes this voltage may go beyond 270 volt. Lower voltage create problem like your product may not function properly. Higher voltage may damage your product. Some of the components in your product may burn due to higher voltage. So while designing the product, you must take into account voltage range. Temperature range is another parameter. You must design your system such that it should work in extreme temperature conditions. Some of the products are always used for indoor applications and some products are always used for outdoor applications. Especially when you are designing product for outdoor application, you must be careful about excess temperature. So when you select the components for your product design, temperature range of the component is mentioned in the data sheet. For outdoor products, you must buy the components for extended operating temperature range. Components are available in two operating temperature ranges, up to 85 degrees Celsius and up to 125 degrees Celsius. Especially when you design the system for outdoor application, you must select the components which can work up to 125 degrees Celsius temperature. There is another serious effect of transient noise. This transient noise is always present on AC power supply that we use in our home, that is 220 volt power supply. This 220 volt power supply has always transient noise on it. And if you do not take into account this transient noise effect, your product may malfunction. Like microcontroller in the system may get reset again and again due to this transient noise, or software running on the microcontroller may hang up. Then last point is humidity. In some of the places, humidity will be very large, and some of the components in the system they may not work properly in the extreme humidity conditions. So there you can put some kind of protective coating on printed circuit board to protect components from excess humidity. Limitations of Arduino and Raspberry Pi boards. Let me tell you these limitations at the beginning so that you can understand what is the importance of using industry grade components for designing the reliable products. Arduino is most widely used by students for developing the projects. Basically, Arduino is an open source electronic platform based on easy to use hardware and software. So these boards are used by many students for project development and prototyping. The major advantage of Arduino board is their codes are easily available on the internet. So you can easily download codes from the internet and you can burn into the Arduino board. These Arduino boards make use of Atmega series microcontrollers. And I have really bad experience about Atmega series microcontrollers. In 2015, one of my student group, they developed wireless mobile auto using Arduino board. And this Arduino board, as I said, make use of Atmega series microcontrollers. And I have really bad experience about reliability of this Atmega series microcontroller. So when we tested this wireless mobile auto developed in 2015 by my students using this Atmega series microcontroller, there were serious issues. First of all, let me tell you what is the application of wireless mobile auto. Using wireless mobile auto, we can control agriculture water pump using our mobile phone. So by calling the wireless mobile auto installed in farmland, we can remotely control the water pump by sending SMS or by making call through interactive voice response system. So we carried out actual test on 10 horsepower motor in one of our laboratory. So when we switched on this 10 HP motor, 10 horsepower motor is really big motor. It consumes a lot of power and generates a lot of electrical noise. So when we initially interface this system to this 10 HP motor, and when we gave command, SMS command to switch on the motor, that motor was switched on correctly. But the moment motor switched on, this Atmega series microcontroller got reset. So we repeated trial once again. We once again switched off the motor and gave the command second time to switch on the motor. Again, second time motor was switched on, but again, the moment motor was switched on, microcontroller got reset. We repeated trial third time, and third time, problem was entirely different. When we switched on the motor, the program saved in the flash memory got corrupted. This is the problem with Atmega series microcontroller. You know, program is saved in flash memory of the any PIC microcontroller. There are different microcontroller manufacturers in the market, more than 8 to 10. But problem with Atmega series microcontroller was it is susceptible to electrical noise. So whenever strong noise enter into the power supply, even program saved in flash memory is not protected. It gets corrupted. And second serious problem is unwanted reset. And another problem is software hang-up. Even software hang-up issues may be with industry-grade microcontrollers as well. But I will tell you in some of the session how to avoid this problem, especially problem of software hang-up issues. So serious problems with Atmega series microcontrollers are unwanted reset, and sometimes programs saved in flash ROM may get corrupted. So if Atmega series microcontrollers are used for developing the products, then these products may not work in industrial environment, because in industrial environment, a large number of electric motors are used. And as such, large amount of electrical noise is available in AC distribution network of industries. And through this AC distribution network, noise produced at one site may enter into the power supply of your microcontroller based system, and it may not work reliably. We also did some experimentation with Raspberry Pi board. We developed this IoT based water management system using Raspberry Pi board in 2016. We deployed this system practically at one of the tank in our campus. It worked few days reliably. The major issue with Raspberry Pi board is there is excess heat dissipation in processor. This is the serious issue in Raspberry Pi board. We also use cooling fan. Besides using small cooling fan, there was excess heat issue in Raspberry Pi board. After 6 to 7 days, it stopped working and started malfunctioning. And we could not correct this problem using Raspberry Pi board. So that's why later on, we started developing same system using industry grade microcontroller. And this first IoT based system, which we deployed practically, we developed around 1.5 years back. But we started work in 2017 itself. First of all, I am going to talk about some problems with electrical noise, how to correct them, and then I will start discussing on sensor design, especially how to measure liquid level of non-conductive liquids. So there we will use capacitive level sensor. I am also going to talk about what kind of unreliable sensors are available on the internet, because most of the students, they use those unreliable sensors for level measurement as well as for moisture level measurement. So you cannot use these unreliable sensors for commercial product. So what is electrical noise? This electrical noise is unwanted disturbance present on AC power supply, or this electrical noise could be coupled through electromagnetic waves. So this electrical noise is non-predictable and it is random in nature. So you cannot predict this noise in advance, and its nature is random. For example, transient noise, which may appear on the AC line, It is random phenomena. It may occur once in a 10 minutes, it may occur once in a 10 hours. It cannot be predicted. This electrical noise spans from low frequency to high frequency. This low frequency noise is basically coupled from one device to another device using through conducting wires. And this conducting wire is nothing but AC distribution network. This high frequency noise usually gets coupled through electromagnetic waves. So this electrical noise spans from low frequency to high frequency. This low frequency noise is called conducted emission because it requires conducting medium for coupling between one device to another device. High frequency noise do not require wires. It is called radiated emission. This high frequency noise gets coupled from one device to another device through electromagnetic waves. So I am going to play small video here first of all. What you can do is whenever you develop any IoT based product, you deliberately inject noise into your system and check reliability. Whether in the presence of noise, the system developed by you is working reliably or not. So what I will do is, I'm going to play here small videos. First video is video of electrical noise in 5-volt supply. And to produce this noise, I use gong bell. So you'll see in this video, so in this video, there is one gong bell. You see, there is a big gong bell here. What I have done is, output of power supply, I have connected to oscilloscope. And this on this oscilloscope, you will see voltage is at 5 volt. There is horizontal line. This horizontal line is at 5-volt level. Now what I am doing is, I have connected this gong bell to the power distribution board here. Now what happens here is, when I switch on the gong bell, this gong bell produces the electrical noise. Electrical noise is not directly audible to us. Look at here, this line is at 5 volt. This line is at 5 volt. Now I am switching on this gong bell. Just minute. Let me share audio of my computer. This is output voltage of 7805 regulator. Now when I switch on the gong bell, when I switch on the gong bell, what happens is that electrical noise produced by this gong bell is conducted out of the power cord and it is placed on the wires inside this. To these wires, this noise enters into the electronic product along with 220 volt DC. And this noise is video audible? Okay. You have seen on the screen of oscilloscope. Let me play another video. What is the problem of electrical noise? Let us understand through this small video. This setup, I would like to how it is reliability of electronic. This setup creates automatic water level computer, AC power distribution, and ground wave. Now this ground wave electrical noise. Electrical noise produced by this ground wave conducted out of power and it enters the DC system. To this board, it again enters into power supply of the automatic water level control. And if it is not properly designed, it may cause unwanted risks. Let me power on automatic water level control. So on power on, I have programmed this water level controller so as to blink 3 LEDs 3 times. Now, if I switch on the gong bell, there is reset problem in automatic water level control. This reset happens because of electrical noise produced by this gong bell. That is gong bell. It is contacted. There is a lot of sparking happens inside the contactor of gong bell, and it creates electrical noise. And this electrical noise interferes with automatic water level controller here. And I have not taken proper care in order to demonstrate what is the issue related to electrical noise. Now in third video, you will see EMI problem is corrected. This EMI stands for electromagnetic interference. Even though I switched on gong bell, there is no reset problem in automatic water level control. That means my circuit is robust against the noise produced by gong bell. So in this setup, if the on power on, LED blinks 3 times. When I power on the system, LED blinks 3 times. So whenever there is reset problem, this LED blinks 3 times. So second time when I played the video here where EMI problem is corrected, even though I switch on the gong bell, we do not see LED blinking 3 times. That means problem is corrected. Sources of electrical noise producing devices. Now why I am telling you about this electrical noise is, first of all, you understand what are the issues with electrical noise. And in few sessions, I will guide you to use one component. So how to use that component, what is name of that component, I will discuss in subsequent sessions. So source of electrical noise. There are a lot of electrical noise producing devices. Few are shown here. Gong bell, which you already seen through video. Electrical motors. Electrical motors are used from smaller rating to larger rating, like half HP rating, 1 HP rating, 2 HP rating, 7.5 HP rating, 10 HP rating. Electrical motors are available up to 300 HP, 400 HP, and so on. Electrical motors which requires higher power, like 7.5 HP motor, 10 HP motor, they produce lot of electrical noise. And especially if you design a system to control this motor, then there is real issue of electromagnetic interference. And if you do not take proper precaution in your system design, how best you write the software, it will fail in hardware, because serious issue will be software hang up issue and unwanted reset. Lightning strikes. So lightning strikes also creates a lot of electrical noise spanning from low frequency to high frequency. Common sources of electromagnetic emission. There are two examples here: wideband sources and narrowband sources. Examples of wideband sources are spark gap. So whenever there is spark between any spark gap, it produces electrical noise. That is conductive electrical noise as well as radiating electrical noise. Lightning strikes creates electrical noise. Then when you switch on and off relays, then they also produce electrical noise. AC/DC electrical motors are again good source of wideband noise. Fluorescent tube light. Whenever we switch on the fluorescent tube light, initially whenever there is flicker, it produces electrical noise. Digital computers also produce lot of unwanted electrical noise. I will talk about later. Examples of narrowband sources. Examples of narrowband sources are high voltage power transmission lines generates electrical emission at power frequency of 60 Hz or 50 Hz. In India, it is 50 Hz. In foreign countries, it is 60 Hz. I will continue for another 15 minutes because initial 15 minutes we have spent for inaugural session. First of all, understand electromagnetic interference. I have only 5 to 6 slides on it. First of all, what is interference? Interference in electrical and electronic devices is caused by intentional or unintentional sources. So source of electrical noise may be intentional or unintentional. Electromagnetic emission that cause electronic system to work in undesigned manner is called electromagnetic interference. So let me give you example of intentional radiation. The waves radiated by your cell phone for communication purpose is kind of intentional radiation. However, radiation from fluorescent tube light, radiation from gong bell, radiation from electric motors is unintentional sources. We use electrical motor for different applications like pumping the water, but it is not used for producing the electrical noise. So this electrical noise is developed by operation of the motor. To some extent, it can be minimized by the manufacturer, but it cannot be completely minimized to zero. So some devices, some gadgets do produce unintentional electrical noise and which cannot be made zero. Strong transmission from FM radio station or TV station may be picked up by digital computer, causing the computer to interpret it as data or control signal, resulting in incorrect function of the computer. Noise caused by lightning discharge may create problems in some devices. Digital computer may create emission, unwanted emission that may get coupled to TV, causing interference. Earlier days, we were using television sets, and those television sets, those television sets had cathode ray tube for producing the picture. So I still recall that whenever mixer grinder in kitchen was switched on, there was granular noise on the television screen. So this noise produced by motor inside the mixer grinder is conducted out of the power cord of this mixer grinder, and it is placed on the AC distribution system inside our home. And through these wires, AC distribution wires, it gets entered into the power supply of television receiver, causing the interference. So few aspects of electromagnetic compatibility and emission. Usually there is source of electrical noise. There is coupling path. This coupling path may be air path or it may be conducting wire. So noise coupled to receptor. Receptor is another kind of device. So this noise may get coupled to receptor via conducting path or via radio frequency channel through electromagnetic waves. So interference occurs if the received energy causes the receptor to behave in undesired manner. Now what is receptor? Receptor is your electronic system, which may be IoT based, which may be non-IoT based system. For example, if you have designed IoT based system to control the water pump, then this water pump may create the electrical noise. This electrical noise produced by this water pump may enter into the power supply of your IoT based system, where it may cause interference. So you need to take proper precaution. Classification of transfer of electromagnetic energy. One example is shown here. This block diagram shows noisy component and some subsystem. This noisy component may radiate the noise, especially at high frequency. At high frequency, wires in the system becomes antenna. Antenna becomes efficient at higher frequency. When dimension of any wire becomes lambda by 4, it becomes antenna. Basically, I am from RF and microengineering domain, and I did my PhD in antenna. So I know properties of antenna very well. So what I want to tell you here is that at high frequency, wavelength of signal becomes very small, few centimeters. And when dimension of any conducting wire becomes at least lambda by 4, it behaves like antenna. And antenna is reciprocal. Antenna is able to receive signal as well as transmit signal. So this noisy component may produce electrical noise. There may be some noisy component in your system. This noisy component may directly radiate the waves. This noise signal produced by this noisy component may get coupled on the wire, and this wire is in between two subsystems of the product. So if this high frequency noise signal, when it is placed on this wire, these wires become antenna and it start emitting the electromagnetic waves. Likewise here, your power cord is also longer in length. So when this electrical noise is conducted out of this subsystem, and if it get placed on this power cord, there is radiation. So wires in the product radiates electromagnetic waves if they conduct high frequency signal. Another possibility could be electromagnetic emission produced by other device. It may be incident on the wires of the subsystem. And as I already mentioned, if this noise frequency is very high, having wavelength comparable with the dimension of these wires, then these wires becomes receiving antenna. These wires receive the noise. And if this noise energy is large, then it could produce random voltage in these wires, and this random voltage may get coupled to some of the sensitive component in the system. So if some components in the system are susceptible to this noise, then this component malfunction. So this is called radiated emission. This first problem shows radiated emission, and second problem shows radiated susceptibility. That is, some components in the system are susceptible to external radiated emission. Another two problems are conducted emission and conducted susceptibility. Like here you will see arrow. This arrow is shown on the wire, and in earlier figures here, you will see arrows are different here. This indicates emission of electromagnetic waves. And here electrical noise is confined to the wires. So there could be noisy component in the system producing low frequency noise of larger intensity. And this noise may get conducted out of the device power cord. This is the device power cord. This power cord may be connected to 220 volt in India, and in some countries 110 volt is used. Like USA, AC power supply voltage is 110 volt 60 hertz. So this power cord may be connected to 220 volt to power the device. So this electrical noise is conducted out of the device power cord, and it is placed on AC distribution network. And through this AC distribution network, it enters into the other devices. You always think that AC power flows into the product, but please understand here is that electrical noise is conducted in opposite direction of the AC power flow. AC power flows into the product, whereas electrical noise produced by the system is this noise flows out of the power cord. Second possibility could be electrical noise produced by other device in the low frequency range. It may enter into the product through this power cord, and it may create problem with some of the components. So this is called susceptibility to conducted emission. So these two sub problems are conducted emission and conducted susceptibility. So unless and until proper precaution is not taken, your system will not work. And I practically experienced most of these problems, and I also understood how to correct these problems. So during upcoming sessions, I will deliver some sessions on correcting these problems. Then another problems of transfer of electromagnetic energy are electrostatic discharge. When we walk across nylon carpet wearing leather shoes, static charge is developed on our body. And if we touch some components of maybe computer, like electric keyboard, the static charge developed on our body is suddenly transferred to the keyboard, and through keyboard it may get coupled to some of the sensitive components, and those components may get damaged. So most of the manufacturers, they harden their products against the electrostatic discharge. This nuclear detonation also creates a lot of electromagnetic emission, and if this radiation is strong, it may damage nearby electronic systems. this electromagnetic energy may get also coupled to the AC transmission lines, AC voltage transmission lines. So whenever lightning strikes the AC transmission wires, the current up to 50 thousands of ampere may be induced on these wires, and the products in the vicinity of the strike may get damaged due to the excess current. And you might have heard that whenever there is lightning strikes in some area, you might have read in newspaper that television sets or some other gadgets in those area get damaged due to this lightning strike. So basically, this huge amount of current which is induced by this lightning strike is conducted through these wires into the appliances connected to this network. Another interesting example is shown in this last figure here, that person is typing on the keypad. You know, whenever you do any typing work on the keyboard or keypad, especially keyboard of computer, there is cable between keypad and the computer. So whenever you press any key, data is serially transmitted on this cable to the computer. And as data is in the form of digital pulses, there is some sort of radiation from the cable of the keyboard. It is possible to detect what is being typed on the keyboard by monitoring the spectrum remotely. So most of the manufacturers, they take proper precaution to minimize this radiation. Voltage spikes. The AC voltage that we use in our home is sinusoidal. Its RMS voltage is 220. Many times spikes are developed on these voltages, and this spike voltage may go up to 450, 500 volts. This peak voltage of this AC voltage is around 330 and RMS voltage is 220. Just let me give small example. See, what I want to point out here is that in India, as I already said, RMS voltage is 220 VRMS, and V peak is root 2 into VRMS. So root 2 into 220 is around 311 volt. So what is this peak voltage here? In India, it is 311 volt. Sometimes spikes are developed by other devices connected to the AC distribution network, and those devices may generate spikes on this voltage. Spikes are also developed by lightning strikes. This spike voltage may go to 450 volt or 500 volt. So your power supply in the system should have protection for the spikes. If there is no protection for the spikes, then this spike may cause unwanted reset or software hang-up issues in microcontroller-based system. So these spikes are random in nature. They do not occur frequently. They are extremely random in nature. But however, these spikes may damage power supply if proper precaution is not taken in the power supply design. And through power supply also, sometimes it may get coupled to the microcontroller. So your system must be robust against these spikes. So what I do is now here, it's now 7:15. I will end today's session here. And what I will do is question answer sessions will start from tomorrow onwards, because enough content is not delivered so far. So we'll have question answer sessions tomorrow onwards. So thank you so much for joining today's session, and I hope all of you will join tomorrow's session in right time. We'll provide link of recorded session after 8:30 p.m. today. So thank you once again. Thank you so much for joining today's session, and I hope all of you have found today's session interesting and useful. So thank you so much.